The Ruined DLC for Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is debatedly the biggest upcoming thing in all of indie horror right now, releasing this year, and for good reason. The base game is often criticized for its massive amount of fundamental problems from game mechanics to story, while also still being praised for having a quality concept just not being executed particularly well. And so naturally, there's a lot of hype around the Ruined DLC because if Steelwood can take these criticisms and apply it to their game, the outcome would be an amazing product. However, with that being said, there's a ton of questions about the DLC that we need to talk about. What is the plot of Ruined DLC? Who will it feature? When will it finally release? And today I wanted to answer all these questions and more to give you guys everything we know about the Ruined DLC that hopefully should be coming this year. So first, let's ask the question we are all wondering. When will the Ruined DLC finally release? Well, obviously based on the only teaser poster we have, the game will be completed at some point this year, which means it could come out tomorrow or in the next 11 months. We're not exactly sure, but we could still speculate. May 30th of last year was when we first got word about the Ruined DLC with the initial poster and release date, meaning that around halfway through 2022 when they first announced this, they most likely already had a story developed for Ruin, based on the many secrets and potential plot reveals in the poster, which we'll talk more about later. And they also most likely after this May announcement were in the earlier stages of developing the game after planning it out, since this artwork still to this day is the only official screenshot of the game we have and nothing more. But speaking from a development timeline perspective, we know that Vanilla Security Breach was in production for at the very least 2.5 years, since the game first got teased in 2019 and was released finally in very late 2021 after a couple delays. However, we have to take into account that this Ruined DLC is probably going to be a lot smaller in size compared to the base game most likely. So I highly doubt the DLC would take nearly as long as the regular version, especially since in an interview they actually told us that the game is supposedly ahead of schedule and could potentially be coming slightly earlier than expected, which is absolutely great to hear. On the other hand though, we also have to take into account that since Security Breach, Steelwood Studios has branched out into a lot of other indie games filling up their schedule, with their VR department working on other titles like Hello Neighbor Search and Rescue releasing in the next couple months, or most importantly, they've actually been working on the newest Hello Neighbor 2 DLCs, which imaginably will take a lot of time away from the development on Ruin, especially if they're planning on doing more projects in the future. So with all this being said, the game seems to be on a pretty good pace to come out pretty soon, so I definitely still expect it to release this year, but it's probably trending towards the back half of the year because we haven't gotten any trailers or anything yet, and I'd imagine they'd reveal a release date months in advance to build hype, so I don't think we're in the home stretch or that close to its release quite yet. However, regardless of what happens, please don't try and rush the developers after what happened with the base game. We need this one to be the saving grace for the title.
Oh god, please no. Oh, this, oh. I don't know.
Anyway, moving from release dates, the next big question people have been asking forever is who is this random girl inside of the DLC poster and what is her importance to the story? Well, while everything from this section is mainly speculative and based on theories, many people have theorized that this new character who is at this point unrecognizable and unnamed in the teaser poster could have significant importance to the FNAF story. More specifically, I've seen two main theories that sort of counteract each other depending on how you interpret the teaser given so far. The first and most popular theory is the Elizabeth Afton theory. And basically, this theory suggests that this female character we see in the teaser is none other than Elizabeth Afton, with her having what appears to be blonde hair on the sides of the drawing, along with her very out-of-place purple shoe lights mixed with Ruin's purple color scheme that feels reminiscent of the Afton family, who are generally depicted using this exact color. The main problem with this theory is that Elizabeth Afton, if I'm not mistaken, should be dead, essentially debunking it entirely. However, something that's really interesting is that when editing this image in any photo editing software, it reveals that this girl's model in the poster is actually in grayscale or black and white, meaning it has no color, which could just be a design choice of the poster in the glare of the background. But some people actually suggest this could be an intentional representation of the past. And in some way, if this figure is Elizabeth Afton, it could be black and white to represent her past self or a memory of some kind before she was killed. And the Ruin DLC will in some way go into more depth about her origin story, whatever that may be, explaining how she could be dead in the game's timeline yet also make an appearance inside of Security Breach. On the other side of the coin though, moving into the second theory, there's just as many people theorizing that this unnamed person is going to be a brand new character of some sorts that we are yet to see and nothing more. There isn't really much to say about this theory in specifics because it simply suggests that whoever this character is will just have to wait to find out, and that's really about all. But I think it's worth pointing out that while the previous Elizabeth Afton theory held a lot of validity based on her physical appearance similarities like her blonde hair. It's also completely possible that these blonde edges of her hair could simply be the glow from the Glamrock Freddy statue in front of her based on the fact that it goes all the way down to her arms. And therefore the color of this girl's hair could be anything and they're just trying to mislead us. I don't know, maybe this character actually isn't Elizabeth Afton after all and it's just everybody overreacting to try and make something out of nothing. I'm not exactly sure. You could really go back and forth comparing and contrasting these two different theories all day. Does the shadow confirm this character is a real figure and not just a memory from the past? Is the microphone wire here meant to look like an E for Elizabeth confirming she is appearing in the game? Okay, maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But speaking overall, the biggest question being asked about the Ruin DLC is, what is this game going to be about plot and story-wise? Well, we are still theorizing here and things could be right or wrong, but we know in the end of the Burn Trap ending, which we are assuming is the canon ending, that the entire Pizzaplex goes into flames and falls apart, which presumably could be where the Security Breach DLC ends up taking place, in the ruins of the Pizzaplex. Most likely years after the base game's destruction based on the gloomy, decayed atmosphere of the poster and the shattered Chica from the aftermath. We also know that hidden in the poster is a new enemy of some sorts lurking among the shadows based on the glowing red eyes. And while there are many theories on who this is, whether it be Vanny or somebody else with similar glowing eyes, in my opinion, it's most likely going to be the Blob character who we see very briefly inside a Security Breach, just based on the fact that there's a lot of secrets that we need to learn about this Blob character that could be expanded upon in the DLC, and also just visually they are elevated in the air, so it would make a lot of sense that whoever is lurking in the shadows is a massive figure tall enough to reach the ceiling like the Blob. Now, characters aside, in terms of specific plots is where things honestly get a little fuzzy. We don't have any background on the female character or really anything else from the poster, so it's hard to say much. I mean, the only somewhat concrete thing we have about the plot is the video footage on the screens of Gregory asking for help, which tells us that he's going to be playing some sort of plot in the new DLC. Maybe even being an exact flip of the original Security Breach, where we go from playing as Gregory trying to escape to playing as Gregory's savior trying to get back into the Pizzaplex. There's really no way to know for sure. I do recall them mentioning in an interview though that this DLC will be a lot scarier than the first game, so that's another interesting footnote on this topic. This is also backed up by the random banner change Security Breach got near the end of 2022 that to this day still has never been addressed by Steelwool. And inside of it, we see these shattered, darker tone animatronics once again, including Shattered Freddy, weirdly enough. And the fact that we've heard nothing about this image to this day leads me to believe that they're most likely for the Ruin DLC in some capacity, whether that be as a teaser or just in preparation for when they announce the DLC in full, hopefully sometime in the next couple months. However, regardless of what it means, I'm really excited to see where the Ruin DLC goes. Comment your theories about what's going on down below, check this video out, subscribe, and peace.